man, brother, you're starting to tiptoe into some of those conversations. It's like, man, we've always done it that way.
We can't change the mindsets of the future, but we can change our approach now and how we look at it.
Welcome to the Triple P Podcast, premier, professional, and proactive, brought to you by the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association. I'm your host, Clayton O'Brien, and I'm the fire chief for the city of Oregon. I'm joined by my co-host, Captain Joel Fry from the city of Napoleon. Welcome to episode 17 of the Triple P Podcast, and this is going to be a great one, and I am super excited about it. I'm super excited about it because it's the first time we've ever been in. We've talked about this for months, but to let all the audience know, we are at the conference, and we're in the hospitality suite. And so in the hospitality suite, we're allowed to have a round table, like a kitchen table up here, to just have a discussion with a few different chiefs along from the area to talk about whatever. So today's a freestyle one. We're hoping that Joel doesn't have to do a whole bunch of editing when it's all said and done. But we're just going to talk about whatever topics kind of come up. And so we'll go around the table a little bit. So just give us a little bit of an introduction, where you're from and, your name, that so on and so forth. And then we'll just kind of, kick it off from there. So let's start with you, Rick.
Okay. Rick Vober, Deputy Chief with Akron Fire. I've been on the fire service about 31 years, and I'm the current Vice President of the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association. And I'm the Operations Deputy Chief for Akron, responsible over operations and administration, so dealing with a lot of interesting stuff.
Thanks, Rick.
Yep. I'm Jeff Deeks, Fire Chief, Cambridge Fire Department, and the Great Southeast. Instead of the Great Southwest, the Great Southeast.
There we go.
Area. I'm also one of the director at large for the Ohio Fire Chiefs. Been doing this as a fire chief or firefighter, for that matter, for 26, 27 years. So happy to be here. Been looking forward to this. This will be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun.
Yep.
But real quick, before we move on to Chad, director at large, what does that mean for the Ohio Fire Chiefs?
We just cover. We're three director at large for the Ohio Fire Chiefs. We have our Southeast directors for each district that we have, but they just help out a little bit. Around if the Southeast director needs help, then we jump in, or if the Northwest director needs help or whatever it might be. But we can cover the whole state, and people can just ask us anything.
I gotcha. So three director at large for the entire state. Mm-hmm. They can fill in for any of how Chad's a Northwest director.
Right.
He may need some help
yes,
up there.
Sir.
Okay.
Yep. You got her.
They're like a utility player.
Yeah, like a utility. You got to pinch hit here and there.
And I would never call Jeff Deeks to come help in the Northwest.
There we go. I'm moving up there next week.
There you are.
I'm going to Oregon. That's where I'm going.
I can't wait, man. I just cannot wait. All right, Chad.
Well, Chad Hollinger, I'm the fire chief at the Sydney Department of Fire and Emergency Services. I've been in the fire service about 28 years, started as a volunteer in Darke County, and then began my full-time career at Sydney in 2003. As Clayton said, Northwest District Director. Long-time listener, first-time participant on the show here. So very excited to be here. This is awesome. This is going to be great. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. And, the big thing about it is that this really kind of started out of the Education Committee. And Jeff Deeks is the chairperson of the Education Committee. And I think that this is episode 17, so we've been doing it for a year and a half. So when we started it out of a local church, the church with Joel and I in Napoleon had all the equipment. And then once I think that people started hearing hey, this could be really good, then that's where I think it kind of got the traction. So the support, all the system and stuff that you guys see here is what the foundation had bought. So nice. It has made our lives very, very easy to, kind of do it rather than before we were having to schedule and, kind of meet with the youth pastor and get all the equipment set up. Whereas now, as you can see, it's all portable. So it's pretty awesome.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Great
stuff. This thing's really taken off. I know when we discussed this at the beginning, when it was starting, it's like, is this really going to be viable? Mm-hmm. And man, it is awesome what it's turned out to be.
Well, that's cool. So let's keep it cool today. So freestyle about hot topics in the fire department.
Hot topics.
Because so in the fire station, everybody has the answer at the fire, right at the kitchen table.
Firehouse lawyers.
So if everybody's got the answer about whatever. So the big things that go around right now. One of the things that we've talked about. I know I talked with Rick about was recreational marijuana. I know I've talked with Jeff about the new things that are happening up in your area about EMS issues. Yep. I know that I've talked to Chad, and then he's talked a lot about, well, in his class, I'm not necessarily specific to your department, but talked about a lot of your class stuff of cultivating a culture. And then in my own personal world of, just all the different things of coming into a new department and a bunch of change and restructuring of things. So all of us are dealing with lots of different things, or at least have stuff on our minds. So that's why I wanted to, kind of do a freestyle of just, talking about one of the things to just be super honest and transparent as chiefs for firefighters and other company officers to learn from. So
stuff. Yep.
So let's start with yours, Jeff. So
EMS,
how's the guys taking over when you say EMS, because you were fire only at the time before?
Yeah. About 7 years ago, we started seeing a delay in response for the city of Cambridge and Cambridge Township. So we all have to be EMTs to get hired at Cambridge anyhow. And I'm thinking, well, why aren't we doing anything to help our citizens, the people that support us and vote for our fire levies and stuff? So it was just a long process. I mean, just like with anything, politics got involved, egos got involved. As everyone knows, egos can eat brains. Mm-hmm. So you had to work through that, and it was difficult. But eventually, we was able to get a levy on the ballot this past May, and it passed. Our citizens have always supported us for that, because I thought there's times we're waiting as first responders, and we do have 5 medics, so we do have advanced capabilities for that. But as responders, I'm looking at our taxpayers. I said, this ain't right. Something has to be done. So we started a movement to get the levy on the ballot. We did. It passed, thanks to our voters. And then 2024, we're going to start actually transporting. But, again, the only way we could do it is by putting a levy. Yeah. And this isn't the greatest time to try for a brand new levy. Sure. Anywhere.
With everything going up and the increase of everything. Yes. So then with that, more work. So if a
lot of work,
not only operationally managing, purchasing supplies, all the stuff. So, but then what about the personnel? Were the personnel?
It was a culture change. I mean, just like Chad will talk about here in a little bit, culture. Because I'll be honest with you, when I was coming up through the ranks at Cambridge Fire Department, you said EMS, you got beat up. Yeah, pretty bad. So, but things have to change. We have to continue. We have to grow. If you ain't learning new things, then that's it. You're wasting everyone's time. So we had to develop into the EMS. We're there to support the citizens, our citizens of the city of Cambridge and Cambridge Township, and we went for it. But it was a lot of work. It was a huge culture change. We developed strategic plans to try to get this levy passed. But the biggest key is getting everyone on board. Yeah. So they can spread the word too, because we're a small community in Southeast Ohio. We're not Akron, or anything like that, or we're not even close, to Oregon, but we just had to get out there and do what we had to do and let give them be transparent as possible with our taxpayers.
Which I love, because that sometimes is the hardest thing, is that, some departments or some chiefs feel like, that the lack of sharing information out there is, could be detrimental to them, where it's rather than just understanding that we're all human beings and we all have issues and things that we're trying to, solve. But I guess when you guys didn't do transport before, but did you guys have to go through the whole, create new job descriptions and work with the union on new pays and all that other stuff? Because I mean, that's I think, on the end where you see you guys passed the levy, it's great, you're going to be offering EMS, but even the citizens sometimes don't understand all the other things that happen within the organization.
And that was the biggest thing with this EMS levy, is just letting our citizens know what's happening, because there was times we're waiting on scene for 30, 40, 45 minutes. The longest time we waited on scene was over an hour for an ambulance to show up. Yeah. So, and that's not good for anybody, whether you're a citizen of Cambridge or you're driving through Interstate 70 or 77 or whatever you're doing. So we had to, as chief, I saw the problem. We had to tackle it, and the union got on board with it, and they helped tremendously to get it passed. So I want to thank them for everything they did, and the guys at the station. And so we just had to hunker down, and we had to do it. And there's just a lot of things you got to look at when it comes to levies. I mean, we operate our fire operations currently off mostly levies. We have 3 city fire levies and 1 township fire levy, and that predominantly makes up our budget. So we have to keep that good faith with our citizens, so they keep supporting our levies when they're due, every 5 years when they vote for it. So, But with EMS, we just had to do it. Timing was a key thing too. All about knowing your district, knowing your coverage area, your different wards. We did everything possible. I'm not a big fan of social media, but I'm old, so but I had to accept the fact that that's just the way it is now. And we have to adapt to that and get our message out and then let the voters decide.
And that's really all that matters is just understanding that, hey, you may not be good at the social media thing, but somebody else in your organization is, and just empower them to let them do it. And,
one thing about the younger generation we got coming on now, that they can do that stuff quicker than.
Well, look at this right here, like the podcast stuff. Right. Like even for me, Joel is the one that is, knows all the technology stuff, and we're only a few years apart, but he is, it's just that little bit of a gap of where he grew up compared to where I grew up, and like there was way more technology that in his life through school and then afterwards, just it's completely different.
Yeah, there's positives there. Let's capitalize on it as chief officers, as whatever rank you are. Look for the strong points in your people and capitalize on it.
Yeah, because they want to be a part of it.
Oh, yeah. They want to they got some skin in the game, too. It's all about them. But, yeah, it's it was a challenging thing for the EMS levy, but we got it through. And, it's still a lot of work to do because we're starting from the ground.
I'm sure.
We got a clean piece of paper here. So I depend a lot on, Rick. Trust me, I call Chad when I have one of those days. Yeah. And vent. And just get advice and what have you. So but we'll get there. So I'm excited about it.
How long are you thinking?
We're going to start sometime in 2024 at some point because the levy money won't start collecting until the first half of 24. We're going to hire more people because I didn't want to take away from the fire side. With our manning that we have 3 crews with 6 people per crew. Someone's usually always off on personal time or vacation or whatever. So we're down to 5. So if I sent 2 people out, that means I only got 3 at the station. And to help with our ISO rating and everything, we just have to we have to take that 30,000-foot view and look at everything and make the best decision that we can in trying to get accomplished our goals. So
I always thought that majority of the departments in Ohio were fire-based EMS anyways. So like when you said that you didn't have EMS, like I wonder like how many did you have to do any research to see like how many other departments were only fire only? Because like I know like in our area would be Findlay would be the only fire only. They don't do EMS, but if there's any other departments that don't have the EMS based,
I don't have an exact number, but I can tell you there's very few departments that don't do EMS anymore. Yeah, with the high fire chiefs and networking that we can do through the Fire Chiefs Association, reach out. Man, you got the world at your fingertips there. And who else better to ask than people that maybe has been through it or been something similar through it. So you got to reach out and ask questions and stuff. So,
and that's why I bring it up is because if there's somebody that you got this done, but if there was somebody listening to it right now that doesn't do EMS and they're thinking about making that transition.
I can remember, I don't know how many conferences ago, but Chief John Soyson from Norwalk. He basically he helped me along. He helped me along with what they did, and I'll always treasure that advice that he gave me of how to get things going and just listening. That's why we got 2 years. Shut up and listen.
But from the start of when you started it, how long it took 2 years from the start?
We did first responder. Well, we're still continuing doing first responder, and we just for 7 years now. We started 7 years ago, but our levy just passed this past May.
Okay, so you started the process 7 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, and it's just like anyone knows. Politics can drag things out. So
one of the things we always, Joel and I knows, we talk about this all the time, is that and that's I think that firefighters sometimes I say they only have to look at for the next 24 hours. Right. Hey, I come in at 7. That was because it was by far the hardest thing for me when I went to chief was that everything came and went so slow because you went and I was used to. On a 24-hour shift, everything would be done. All the calls that I went on was completed. All the run reports that was completed. Where then you kind of promoted up to a company officer, and you might be doing projects that last a week, a month, or whatever. And then you go to chief, and now this is what you're planning for years at a time.
I'm planning for years.
You're looking from 24 to, and if your capital replacement plans are out 30 years or whatever else, but then sticking with a project that for 7 years says a lot about yourself and the team that you have there. So that's pretty awesome.
Like I said, thanks goes out to all the people that I work with. We gotta. They know what we need to do. We know that's the right thing to do, and we just you got to get the funding though to pay for it. It's a service that we can provide. So it's been a challenging thing. I'm not going to lie about it. But
was it your deep voice that got it sold?
Well, I got that Barry White thing. Just whatever. Look out, ladies.
Charisma that gets her done.
Sex appeal.
Oh, there's none of that here. Trust me. None of that here whatsoever. So, but yeah. So
I don't want it to feel like just an interview from me to So Rick and Chad, just step in there if you have any questions and just about the topic. I mean, if anybody else has got anything, that'd be cool.
I do, Jeff. So when you talk about the purchase of equipment and you're looking ahead, with the time frame to get an ambulance is 36 months.
And
then longer. So how did you approach that?
Well, we just had to look at the whole picture. There's grants out there available. We're Southeast Ohio. I'm not going to lie. I love it there. But we tend to move a little slower on things,
Sure.
So we have to look at every grant possibility out there. We don't have the budgets that, but they have that, you get what you get. This is our budget, fellas. This is what we got to deal with. So let's do it. So we look at every grant possible. BWC grant we're going to probably go for and get some equipment off of.
Well, if you need any help with that, we just got that too.
Did you? Yeah. I think we're going to get, we're going to go for that. And there's just some, state equipment grant. I'm looking into that. I've always applied for that through the department for different things, but we always got shot down too. But that's okay, because there's a lot more. I know deep down there's a lot more departments worse off than what we are. So, and that money has to be spread around, and that's tough. It's just a tough decision. I don't envy those people who makes that decision, who gets what and what have you. But we just have to look out. Right now we're going to start off with used ambulances. So we purchased one already, and so we have that. We're actively looking for another used ambulance because we know right off the bat. We did the projections. We had the hot fire chiefs do a feasibility study for us a couple years ago. We had a billing company come in and say see what their numbers are, and the IFF even did one.
Oh, okay.
And that was very in detail, the IFF report, which really opened the light on a lot. Down to the fuel cost. It was that detail on things. So we got together as a group because it's not a me thing. It's a we thing, and I think we understand that we have to make this move, and we looked at everything and like I said, thank goodness for our voters. They've always supported us. So but with that, you always worry about, well, what about where's the billing money go? Does it go in general fund of the city and everything? We made sure that money will come back to the fire department so we can replace costs.
Yeah.
Equipment replacement costs, purchase equipment, just the whole 9 yards there. So I'm learning as I go. Trust me, I make mistakes. I'm going to probably make more down the road, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's completely fine. That's what
the only way you learn.
Yep.
But yeah, as far as that goes, we're looking at all that stuff. We're looking at any grants possible out there. Community support. We have a leadership Guernsey class, and they did a fundraiser for us, and they did one for our PD last year for their animals. I'm sorry, not animals, dogs.
Yeah,
the dogs,
yep.
and they actually raised $23,000 for us in a short amount of time, and they gave me the check a few weeks ago before I came up here. So all that money is going to be going right to the EMS side of things, and to purchase things.
That's awesome. Because it does connect. I will say Battalion Chief Hempstead's class when he talked about his department and connected locally in the community and all the support that they've had, the brand and initiative and all that. Mm-hmm. And EMS is a thing that really the citizens can connect to, because that's where they see us performing majority of the time.
Right, and that's the majority of our calls.
Yeah.
We're going to average anywhere. Estimations are looking at anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 EMS calls that once we do that, that's what we're going to be faced with. So we got to get more personnel hired, actually tonight, which is July 19th.
Yeah.
We have our civil services having a test right now, and we've accepted, we're starting to do lateral transfers now. to see what that looks like. And so we're moving forward. You got to be patient.
How is it down in that area with recruiting and retention? Like, how many people would you get for a test?
Everywhere else. When I took the test, I think I tested against like 150 people.
Okay.
Today, I just got a text from one of my captains on duty. I had one of my officers run down there to see how many people. We had 12 people for our civil service test. We have 3 laterals, I think, that has submitted their application. 2 or 3, I can't remember exactly. But, yeah, so we got to look at all options available, just like everywhere else across the nation for that matter.
For sure. It's kind of the same thing in your boat over there in Akron, too?
Yeah, so we just finished we're in the middle of a process. We gave a test in January, and we had 600 and some that actually passed the test. When I took the test, 4,000 took the test.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. We're going to hire – we'll probably exhaust this list. We exhausted our last list, so we'll probably go through most of it this time. So it is a problem.
Yeah.
Specifically paramedics.
Yeah. Okay. Are you required to be a paramedic when you get hired there?
We're required to make sure that they become a paramedic at some point, and then eventually we'll be looking at trying to get paramedics throughout their career. Mm-hmm. But right now they're able to contractually get out after 10 years if they're the most senior person.
Okay. And so your class sizes are 50, 100?
This next class will be a class of 40 is what we're aiming for, and then we'll probably do a follow-up class in January as soon as we get them through. We're working through the process now, which has been difficult to try and get it on with specifically issues with background investigators because we're short-staffed. So it's been problematic for us.
So short staff in your administration, because you don't third party that, right? You guys, or does the police department do it, or?
We've attempted to do that with the police department. Our folks end up doing it. We use folks from our from our arson investigators, and we train them to be background investigators, and we use them, and we use some volunteers from the line to do it. It's a cadre of a number of individuals that put in a lot of time, and it's they do a fantastic job, but it's difficult. It takes a couple of weeks per individual that they do, and we have to go contractually. We have to go through 150 to be able to offer CJOs job offers, and but between that and the polygraphs, it takes a long time, and we still haven't interviewed yet. So it's a long ways away yet, and we're hoping to get them in soon. And our firefighters are working very hard to keep up, and our paramedics are working hard to keep up, and numbers aren't going down. I think some days we hit 180 calls, 200 calls. Mm-hmm. On average, we're 150, 160 calls a day. So they're running a lot.
Yeah, they are running a lot, and it doesn't go down. It seems like it's going up every year. It seems like the class that Joel and I was just in was with Mark Hill. He's a firefighter paramedic. He did the winning strategies for the field training officer class, and he talked about the different ones of when they're coming in, and he's from Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin, get this, and I didn't know this, but in Wisconsin, 16 hours to be a firefighter.
Wow.
Really?
And you don't even have to pass. All you got to do is attend the class, 2 8-hour days, and you're a Fire 1. And that's it. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And I said, and that is by law, state law, statute. Like, wow. Oh my God. We're thinking like, and he said they're 50th in the nation. They are 50th in the nation on the amount of hours to be a firefighter. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But then even with that being said, not that I think that in his department, they had to have a Fire 2 paramedic, to be able to actually get hired. But, you only had to have 16 hours to get started. So at least they're starting somewhere, and they're all young. He said that, there's a lot of them in the earlier class today when we had the gentleman that talked about, I can't remember what the title is exactly, but he talked about training, and then his department was average of, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. And I'm like, oh my gosh, of how many they actually were. It was the training the mindset class, and training the mindset is what they were talking about. And he said that majority of the people in his department were 19, 20, or under 22, and they covered 127 square mile. Wow. And so you think about that of like, and the good points that it was in there, and I'm sure that we're all going to be dealing with this, is that when I grew up on a farm.
Right.
You know, a lot of our area was a rural area, and we drove big trucks. We drove tractors. I mean, I was
like
driving
it.
the grain.
Sounds like home.
Sounds like home.
Sounds like home for me.
You're right.
Yeah.
I was driving the grain truck at 12 years old, you know, and I mean, I'm at the tractor at 8, whatever. So driving a fire truck or an ambulance wasn't that big of a deal when I worked in concrete and doing construction beforehand. Whereas now, if my son was to get hired, he's never drove a big truck like that. So it's even more important on our driver training, our EVOC classes, and things of that nature too. So those are all challenges, I think, that even though they're certifications where you don't have to have a degree, but to get in the fire service in general is still kind of, you know, a challenging event, or challenging. Maybe not as much for you because you guys probably don't have to have any training, right, Rick? Like you can just get hired right off the street, no training. You guys send them to everything, right?
Yeah, we send them through fire school, through EMT and medic school.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about the 16 hours in Wisconsin. You have to do more hours than EVOC in the state of Ohio just to drive a dang truck.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's...
and they're going in. He said that's interior firefighting too.
That's
scary.
It is. It's
That is,
terrifying.
it's scary because not only is they don't have the experience, they have less hours than, and you're putting them in these situations where trucks that, you know, in some cases only have 2 people on them. So somebody's got to be running the fire, and then somebody's got to be pumping it, and then now who do you got going in? Mm-hmm. So whoever can show up, and then that very minimal training. So, but that's tough.
Let's see what Akron has for. They got Rick Vober.
I think
he's the man.
He is the
Rick
man.
Vober is the man. They got Rick.
You had to go there, didn't you, Rick? Yeah.
Everything's going to be fun.
We can cut that.
Okay. We got to have fun. Right?
Yeah, you do got to have fun. But Rick did make a good point that probably everybody's dealing with it. We should talk about if there's any solutions that in any of the departments is about the equipment and apparatus and timeframes. You know, I mean, as those topics are right now, if you talk to a lot of vendors too, 36 months or used ambulances or whatever are things that we're going to be able to do. What are some of the solutions that, you know, Sydney's doing to combat, you know, say your apparatus replacement plan?
Yeah, so we do have a couple engines that we're looking to replace, and you know, we're going through the spec processes and, you know, do we want to do a custom truck? And what do we want this truck to look like? And whenever you're talking custom, you're talking those 36, 40, 48-month time frames.
And you're talking, right, exactly, Joel. You're talking the inflation. You seeing the prices these days with the, oh my gosh.
Makes you want to cry.
It does.
So
when I made the comment, I'm like, oh yeah, I was just super confident. We were like, yeah, 800,000, 900,000 should be able to get us a good engine. Yeah. Okay. 1.5 times, you know, and they're saying it's probably around 1.2 somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we're doing is, you know, aside from looking at this is the exact truck we want with 100% of the things we want on this truck, what the market's forcing us to do is look at vendors that may have a stock truck or something online that maybe hits 90 to 95% of what we want, and then we can customize a few things to Sydneyize it, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's foreign to us. You know, we've always expected that this is the truck we want. And, you know, I remember new firefighter, we would have apparatus committees get to work, and I wasn't allowed to be a part of those then. I just had to watch outside the window, you know. But, you know, they do their work, and within the year, the truck shows up, and it's, man, this is awesome. That's not the economy we live in today. I mean, it's a whole different world, and you have to, you know, talking about planning months and years ahead. You know, that's where we live now, and we just bought a medic and waited over a year to get a medic unit. It's like, what?
Oh, they're telling me if we ordered a medic today, you're not seeing it till 2026.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And to your point about like the stock ones, I feel like ambulances are like, I don't want to just say throwaway trucks, but I feel like they're all the same. Like, why get into all, they should just be producing. Right. You know, like here's what the standard is. If we ask somebody, hey, what's the best hood or the top selling hood, they're going to give you whatever hood it is that you're, or tool or helmet or whatever it is. I don't know why it couldn't be something very similar like that in the ambulances, because, you know, I get that the fire apparatus might change dramatically between the different, you know, places that we all cover, but ambulances, I just don't really think they should, you know, much
when you're talking about a medic, you're not talking about, do we need a rear discharge or front discharge or rear intake, you know, do we want deck guns, or it's a medic unit. And not to dismiss what we do in EMS.
Sure.
I'm not minimizing that at all. But, I mean, it's a rolling ER. And it's not all that different from truck to truck.
Yeah, it's just like it's the cabinetry, it's the setup, it's just
Right.
making sure it's the size of the box, whatever. And then I get that the only thing that might be different would be like truck chassis, van chassis.
Correct.
Because of what our streets are compared to what your streets are. That might be a little bit different, but
Yeah, for sure.
And we're getting an EMS, so yay.
Yeah.
But that's one of the great things. I'm listening to Chad, and you guys talking and whatever. That's one of the great things about the high fire chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, you got it right there at your fingertips. You just got to ask.
That's what I'm saying.
It's great.
It's
awesome.
It is. There's always somebody that's dealing with something.
Oh.
We're all dealing with the same problems, and that's
Sure.
why I thought that what the whole reason why I wanted to do a roundtable was because just to talk about the different things that we can pick from people from all the different parts of the state, and we can all see that we're all dealing with different issues.
Yeah. And, different size departments, different regions of the state. And I made a note when Jeff was talking earlier because I wasn't really paying attention. I was just taking notes. But like Jeff said, one of the greatest things, and I was paying attention, Jeff.
I know, buddy.
One of the best things about the Ohio Fire Chiefs is the networking. And he said earlier about, just getting the equipment and making phone calls and reaching out to people. And, in Sydney, we've been doing EMS since the late 60s. That is part of our culture. It's been there for, decades. And I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago, Jeff sent out an email and said, hey, about these BWC safety grants for Lucas Auto compressors. I was like, brother, I just did one of those. We got awarded. And that's one of the value adds of the Ohio Fire Chiefs. No matter what you're dealing with, there's probably somebody in the association that has dealt with it, solved it, and you can at least take some pieces of that solution or resolution and apply it to where you're at. You can ask the question, it can be put out on the forum and shared, and people can respond in. But even better, there's ways to get plugged into the Ohio Fire Chiefs, whether it's conference or OFE or Fire Officer 1, 2, and establish those personal relationships where you can pick up your cell phone and call somebody and say, hey, brother, what's going on here? Hey, sister, have you ever dealt with this? It just, man, it's a value add for sure.
I want to circle back to the apparatus replacement thing because like a lot of the departments in the state of Ohio are volunteer too.
Oh yeah.
And so if you think about like even in our department in Oregon, the combination department, it's really got me making a different look at how many pieces of apparatus do we really need. Because if we have these recruiting issues, we have the amount of people, can we really fill the trucks? How many trucks are actually getting out? And maybe the conversation needs to turn to, maybe I don't need this many apparatus, but I need mutual aid or automatic aid or whatever the thing is to be able to start creating those relationships. Because if we're all struggling with the same thing, how can we just blend them so everybody's working together?
Man, brother, you're starting to tiptoe into some of those conversations. Like, man, we've always done it that way. We've always had these bays filled, and going back to what Jeff said about doing the right thing, and I talked about this in my presentation the other day. You start to develop in your mind what is the right thing, and you weigh it out and you measure it, and then you become resolved, and this is the right thing. And like what you're talking about with the apparatus, you got all these bays, and well, why wouldn't they all be full?
Yeah.
And man,
Well, I know some departments
but you
right
gotta
now
have those hard conversations. You got to take that hard look.
Yeah, well, I know some departments that they got a bunch of trucks, but they don't have that many people, and there's just never ways that you're going to be able to get it out. So to just kind of get back to that fact of like, okay, so how old are those apparatus and when they really need to be? If I only had one or two that are going to really be able to serve us because we can fill those out, then we can actually have one or two good ones that we can maintain nice and we can fill that sort of thing. Because what Mark talked about in that class was that, they might have four pieces of apparatus show up and only 2 people per apparatus and only have 8 people on scene. Right. You might have 3 engines in a truck there, but you only got, 8 people. So I get that they come. So I get it's different at all different departments. But I think that with these time frames, with the price, with the the increased cost, at some point there's got to be a bubble that, obviously that bubble bursts at some point and says, right, what do we truly need? Because I can tell you that most politics councils don't want to have for the one-time scenario situation that you're going to have the biggest catastrophic event. They want to have all the staffing for that one event. Want to handle the staffing for what I always talk about in our area is that I need to have enough staffing for 2 and 3 or 2 and 3 overlapping EMS calls, and the first complement to a structure fire.
Right.
Because if we have that staffed at the station, that's the game. That's the difference.
Right.
Where a majority of the time, that's about the standard. But you can't have the staffing and the apparatus for, that big downtown fire or that big commercial fire that's going to last for, however long, and that's where the balance is. And I think that just kind of explaining to the personnel, kind of having those conversations with them to kind of understand that it's this combination department or this all volunteer department. What do you want to focus on and be really, really good at?
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough. We had the same conversations in our department. We're a 20-person department right now.
Yeah.
And we was replacing an engine, and we talked about we need to look at it, engine rescue.
Yep.
Because we cover Interstate 77 and Interstate 70. With the size of apparatus now, they're not getting any smaller unless you order it that way. But, instead of taking 2 pieces of apparatus, we need just to take 1. And that's the discussions that I think every department has to have.
They do, because not only is it not be taken into consideration about just the apparatus, is that when we're talking about is about all the equipment and all the hose on it.
Oh, yeah.
I will say at this conference, I opened up one of the truck doors on these displays out here as we were going through in the parking lot. And I'm like, man, that fan is like super old. What? Why is that? They chose not to replace the equipment. I'm like, I just feel if you replace an apparatus, you should replace all the equipment on it, because most likely it was bought at the same time that truck was, and it's just as old. And so then there's those types of sacrifices that are happening, and I'm thinking those sacrifices that are happening for the actual apparatus that's showing up on scene, but those are that piece of equipment's what we're putting in our people's hands.
Right.
That to me is, I think, cut out that, what I've seen on I'm not a fan of, that coffee maker on the fire apparatus. Like, what? Cut out that kind of crap, cut out that kind of stuff that you've seen on those things that can save it so you can buy the new hose, so you can buy the good equipment so your personnel can have it.
Now, wait a minute. Let's back up a minute.
Oh, here we go.
Coffee pot on the apparatus. I'm 100% in. I think that's phenomenal. One of the things that you mentioned here a few minutes ago, I need to speak on, and you talked about mutual aid and auto aid and bringing in your partners when you have issues. One of the things that we're seeing is because of the call volume rise, a lot of departments don't want to go outside. They don't want to send their folks outside because they're busy already. And if I send my unit out, I don't have somebody covering my community.
Very true.
So our approach has to be a holistic approach, and maybe even considering changing our response to closest truck. Very similar to how Columbus runs their models, where closest person or closest firefighter to the incident goes to that incident and commands and takes over it. I think that's something we have to look at. And
I think Dayton does that. Doesn't Dayton do that with like Riverside, or is it Riverside and like Huber Heights and stuff? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And I think the state has already made that move with shrinking the PSAP centers around the state of Ohio, and I think that's the start of it. But we need to really look at, as fire chiefs, what's going to happen in the next couple of years and how we're going to respond appropriately to what needs, right response to the right call that comes out.
Yeah, very true. I mean, just closest apparatus for that call that's going to be going, because and not get so you're suggesting to not get so hung up on, that your apparatus went into somebody else's district or what the name is on the side of the truck, that you at least we got the appropriate apparatus or the appropriate people to the call for service.
The citizen is the most important. We need to approach that in our response, and I think it's key.
But it's so hard because as we can maybe sit here and talk because we think about forward thinking or progressive thinking and wanted to do and challenge the norm. So that's probably easy for us. But I mean, we can all think about different chiefs in our areas or in other areas, because I will say I have great neighbors, so I can't say, but I would say that we can all think of those ones that might not be that way when we leave or have the same mindset. That relationship doesn't go, that they have that. No, if it's a my district call, I want a my district truck showing up to that call, and I don't care if you're closer or not.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think there is that issue, and we can't change the mindsets of the future, but we can change our approach now and how we look at it. And that's why I think that coffee machine's fantastic in the try.
Well, I like it. I'm getting one.
You know what? I could go for like a little like portable one, like in your, that you could pull out. But I'm telling you, this thing was like pull out Keurig thing, like whole deal. And I'm like, wow. It's a whole waste of, we need the cabinet space first and foremost.
I agree.
It wasn't on a spec that I had just seen on Facebook or whatever else, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Clayton's amazing.
Look at that is not happening.
Oregon's got the stuff. We need to move up to Oregon.
No, we do not have a coffee maker on our truck, and we will not have a coffee maker on our truck. I do not. I'm all for like you need coffee on a fire scene, or whatever, and helps with some rehab things. But I think that the appropriate use of funds for for what you need to get done is that, because I was all for the Joel, he loves coffee. You could drink coffee all day long too. The guy never stops drinking coffee. But yeah, so it's just one of those things I think that everybody's kind of dealing with. But does anybody else say anything on that topic?
Let's stay on the mutual aid topic for a minute, because the marshal's office has the volunteer task force, and a lot of conversation about the status of volunteers in the state of Ohio. Yeah. And for a lot of our departments, I know Jeff's in the same situation as I am,
Yep.
Career department, and you're serviced and helped by a lot of volunteers. Like everybody else in my county is a volunteer agency. And fortunately, where we're at for now, the volunteer fire service, and at least in my area, is pretty healthy. There's a steady stream of people coming in, and we're very thankful for that. But I know that there's parts of the state that's not the case, and especially on the EMS side. Volunteer EMS is, the volunteer fire service is in trouble. I think the volunteer EMS service.
Well, and I think that's
critical.
What's really killed it, quite honestly. If you go back to, if it was just volunteer fire, there would be a lot of individuals that would probably want to be a part of it, or could still maintain it, at least for the amount of call volume that it is, compared to the volunteer EMS, to your point, because of the amount of runs that coming in. Because if it's 80%, back when I was in Napoleon, did just shy of 2,000 calls, and there was about 200, 250, somewhere in there, fire-related calls. Right. Okay, so that's less than one call a day. Like, it's manageable for volunteers to be able to, respond to that. But then you add the EMS calls in there, and there's just no way. When you're averaging 5 EMS calls a day, and then they're just not going to be able to, maintain that.
And thank goodness for the volunteers. I'm
speaking
personally.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
With the EMS issue that we have in our county, all I can say is God bless them. Because they have come in and helped us, assist us, and they haven't complained once.
Oh, well.
Not once. Not once have they complained.
And love it, because that's where in Napoleon we had Ridgeville right next door.
Yeah.
And I always told Chief Beneke, like, hey, you're like our volunteer department, like of our force. Right. We get get going in the first 5 minutes and get started at the scene, but we knew that they were coming. They're coming with a full engine, and I'm lucky and fortunate to have the exact same thing in Oregon with Jerusalem Township. That's it. We get the staff going out the door right away, but you have that force coming behind it.
Yeah.
So
like I said, at least in Guernsey County, and the Southeast, we're predominantly volunteer.
Yeah,
and it's tough right now.
Not only volunteer. What's the like distance travel? When that guy talked this morning, 127 square miles. Holy crap!
Chief Reimer, he's the Southeast District Director, and he's the fire chief in Athens, of course. I think we have, don't quote me on this, but like 17 counties, maybe, around that number, and he's been.
Directors at large don't have to pay attention to that. You just, if you only have to step in.
I pay attention to a lot of things, Clayton. Thank you very much. I'm getting old. Okay. Because today's my birthday, and I can't remember everything.
Oh, that's right. We should see you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. I give you a big hug already.
Yeah. He travels, and we have those district delegates now that each district has. They got to help. Because with the Southeast District, it's a huge district.
So because 17 counties in that district, but those fire departments within those, are those are large areas that they're covering?
Oh yeah. There's out Salt Fork. If a little shameless plug here, come out to Salt Fork this September for the volunteer resource symposium out there. So, but. We got one department out there. They cover like 125 square miles.
Yeah.
Just in their area. That's just their coverage area. It incorporates several townships.
So crazy.
I know, man.
The speaker this morning said 127
Yeah.
square mile that they covered.
Yeah. So it's just
one station.
That's just the way it is. Yeah. That's the same way in Southeast Ohio, and it's just like, wow, I'm blessed to be on a career department. I get paid to do what I love, so I'm very thankful for my job, but I also volunteered for 4 years before I got hired at Cambridge.
Yeah.
So I know that side of things. I know what's going on in Southeast District. It's tough right now to get to get people to volunteer anymore. So, and we're going out and pushing these, I'm getting into middle schools now to push these young kids. Hey, think about the fire service. Go volunteer. Mm-hmm. Or even an older person. Maybe they graduated high school. College is not for them, which is fine, and they're looking for something to do. Go volunteer. See if you like it. It might turn into a career for you.
Well, what I tell a lot of people too is that, if you can start out as a local responder, a volunteer, that fire department's most likely putting you through school.
Yeah.
It's paying for your EMT, paying for your fire card. And if it's something that you will find whether you really like to do it or not. And, but you can do it in outside of normal work hours where you can still be working a full-time job or whatever else.
Yeah, it's definitely needed out there. So.
Thank you for tuning in to the Triple P Podcast, premier, professional, and proactive, brought to you by the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association. If you'd like to hear more, follow us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please help us spread the word by telling your fire and EMS friends about this channel.